Hey, thank you for joining us on KHU 11 Plus. I'm Lynn Cannon. Today we're continuing an important conversation about men's mental health and how it affects the way we love, connect, and show up in relationships. Joining me today, quite a panel of experts who bring honesty, heart, and a little bit of humor to this topic. We have comedians Will Roberson Jr., Chinadu Ogu, who you've seen on here before, Anthony A., and Dr. Ty David Lerman, a licensed psychotherapist. Thank you all for joining us to discuss men's mental health and our romantic relationships. Something I want to start with, it's a fairly, there's some humorous stuff we'll get into because you all, except for you, Doctor, have, some comedy to share when it comes to relationships. But this is fairly, I think, important. I think it's important to start with the premise that I think what should be the foundation for the entire conversation, self-worth and self-care is a foundation for love. Self-worth and self-care, why do you think that's important?
It's the foundation of everything we do.
Yeah.
At least if we're practicing healthy living, it is. I think that frequently we get distracted by life and other things. We have a lot of competing obligations and relationships, and sometimes we get distracted and derailed from the things that are the most important, such as our self-care and self-worth.
And Will?
Yeah, so the prism or the perspective that we establish about ourselves internally is what we're going to project out. So really anything we want to accomplish in life is going to come from that foundation. So it's important that we use self-care in order to establish self-love, and then we'll be able to move forward in life.
I like that word prism and how we project. Chinadu?
I wholeheartedly agree, especially as our roles as our, as either, head of household, husbands, fathers, things like that. It's very important for us to know who we are, decipher who we are, so that our family can get the best versions of us. Without these, it's very hard to really have and lead a great family. I know for me, I want to make sure I smile a lot, because
Why?
Because I want my kids to, especially, of course we're all, brother. You know what I mean? Like, brother. Brother. But it's always put upon us as men to always be tough, stoic, and things like that. But I want my kids, when they look back and they see pictures of me on shows, whatever it may be, I want them to see they're that happy and whole, and that I lived life, I enjoyed life, and I want the same for them too. I wasn't angry, and I wasn't always caught up in all the things that I felt set me back in life, or I felt things that were unfair to me. It's really just investing in myself and getting that clarity about what things I need to work on and how I can be better for myself and my family.
I've heard the phrase, a smile is free. I think that's a beautiful thing, what you just said.
Yeah.
Anthony?
I believe if you're not loving yourself, how are you going to be able to love others? And that starts with a lot of the self-care and everything that goes into that too. And it also helps if you're taking care of your own mental and your own well-being, you're going to be able to guide and lead your people or your village better because you have a clear state of mind as well. So I agree, just to echo what everyone said. Yeah, I agree that it's important to love yourself first. Therefore, you could, get that love out to everybody else.
I feel like when you do that, loving yourself also is a trigger to recognize when you're not getting reciprocal love.
Yeah.
And to recognize what is not love, what is not healthy, as opposed to, I'm gonna let that slide.
Yeah.
Self-love will allow you to identify and go, wait, what? Who are you talking to like that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think you're talking about like integrity. Like I think we have to know what it is in order to know when we're out of it,
Yes.
when it's not what we want or what we need. And so I think it's the flip side of the same coin.
I hear you. Lots of ways mental health affects relationships. Couple things: anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
So I wonder, as men, most of you are in relationships of some sort, except Anthony. How can we?
Thanks, Len.
I already throw them out there like that.
Perfectly okay. Not being in a relationship
It's a
is perfectly
situationship.
It's a situationship. Okay.
He's doing a lot of self-love these days.
Why? Hey.
Out of control. Out of control.
Family show.
But I just want to point that out. But there's some things in your life we're going to get to a little bit later. I think it's very important to discuss. how, as men, can we support a partner dealing with anxiety and depression? Doctor, how?
Well, I think we need to start that conversation with normalizing mental health. And like 80% of the adult population in the US is going to experience major depressive disorder at some point in their lives. 80%. This is pervasive. Everyone is going to experience this in some capacity. And so we need to lead with a lot of love and compassion and understanding and like lots of grace. And so when we're going through that, of just making sure we're supporting our partner and what they need in that moment.
Yeah, I hear you. Sometimes harder to do in the moment.
Much harder.
Because you're a little confused, especially if it's a lingering thing. You know, you're trying to figure out, well, why aren't you okay? You know, so, but that's an excellent point. Will?
Yeah, so specifically with anxiety, which I have personally seen that lead into a lot of depression. But in terms of, I think there's a few strategies. Initially, in terms of like the immediate, like whatever's in front of you, having the ability to kind of stay calm and react as more of a, somewhat of a rock or someone that they can depend on as like a steady hand. And then long term, helping that person get the help that they need, just being really supportive.
Yeah.
And a lot of that goes back to, though, what you pointed out at the beginning in terms of that self-love. Because when your partner has anxiety, that can affect you as somebody who wants to see your partner do well.
Yes.
When your partner's suffering from depression, part of what you're asking is it me? Like, am I doing something? What am I doing? But when you have that foundation that we spoke about, you can come from a place of like, okay, this isn't about me. This is about whatever my partner's dealing with.
Jenna, I know you're married. You have how many kids? Two kids. So how, I'm not saying this has ever happened, but how would you see supporting your partner if they're struggling for whatever reason?
Honestly, the main thing to do is to provide them with a space to really express themselves and be vulnerable with you and talk these things out, what may be bothering them or going on. One of the biggest things too is a lot of people, they hold so much in because for one, they feel like they don't want to be a burden to you, or especially when you're married and you're going through the day-to-day of kids, work, there's so much already going on and you feel like you're going to add to that problem. But it's important to make sure that specifically your spouse, know that they have that space with you to be vulnerable and talk things out, vent, and just and truly just talk and communicate all those things out that may be bothering in terms of anxiety and depression. And you know, some people view anxiety as a good thing. Sometimes it be a good thing. Like Doechii, she made a great song about it, won a Grammy, doing great. Somebody's watching me. But you know, for most people, it's not. It's very hard to go through and sort through, and they just need to know that they can count on you in those moments where it feels really dark.
Yeah. So Anthony, we were talking earlier, and I want to bring this up. You told me you're not in a relationship, but you helped raise your younger brother.
Yes.
Because your father was not around.
Yeah.
In what ways did you support your brother growing up? Because I'm sure there was anxiety, and so you had to kind of be there to support. How did you do it?
Man, I think at the end of the day, what it kind of came down to was listening with compassion and understanding and trying to set a good example by the actions that I was doing and carrying myself as an honorable man and an honorable person, and to let him know, regardless of the circumstances of, you know, where you come from or where anybody comes from, it's up to you to operate with integrity and carry on. And that was kind of my message to him throughout life.
That's wonderful. The one thing you cannot do, and I've been married for 28 years, you cannot be dismissive. That is the worst thing you can do, because it creates, what's the word I'm looking for, doctor? They get offended. You're not hearing them. Yeah. So it's important not to be dismissive. I want to come back to something with you, Anthony, about, you kind of joked about it. Is it still, in this day and age, where men have to be stoic, don't cry, don't share their feelings? I mean, on Instagram, you can find anybody to talk about mental health and so forth and so on. So I just wonder, is that still an issue?
I believe it is, you know, because if you lean too far one way, you're too much of a Drake. and you don't want to. you don't want to be over. I know we're here in Houston. No, please don't watch that. But you don't want to be. You can't. We struggle with that. We're on the forefront of emotional intelligence and mental health for men as a generation.
Yeah.
These conversations are something that my father or my grandfather never had in the barbershop.
That's true.
So I think it's a delicate dance of making sure that back to what we were saying, of making sure you're taking care of yourself and you're checking in with yourself so you could operate with integrity and make sure that you're expressing yourselves and your emotions in a proper way, because anybody can be too emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about just letting it flood out. It's about, keeping it in check.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about conflict resolution? Anybody in a relationship knows what I'm talking about, and it comes in different forms. Mm-hmm. How do you resolve conflict without all-out war?
Well, I think it ties back to what you were talking around a second ago. I think the word was validation.
Yes.
I think we need to lead with that validation, and the dismissiveness is it just creates walls, and it makes the whole point of communicating is so that we can connect and we can get each other, and that you feel me and that you get where I'm coming from.
And you hear them.
Yes. And so when we're missing that, we're missing the entire thing.
Very true. Will?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many conversations or how many arguments I've been a part of where at the end of the day, just the fact that someone feels like they're being heard helps us overcome the issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like everything else is negotiable as long as both parties have been able to represent, right, their position.
Yeah.
And very few times do I find that people are purposely trying to hurt each other.
Yes.
More times than not, it is just a simple misunderstanding. And I also see a lot of times where it's not the act, but the concern around what the act means. Right? So
The interpretation.
yes.
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
So many times it's just that listening piece. It's that you may not even need to change the behavior. You just may need to explain. Oh, hey, that's not what I intended to communicate. This is what it means.
Yeah. Chinadu? And then I'll come back to you, Doc.
Okay.
I also want to say, I just admit that I'm wrong and apologize immediately. That's why if you're married, I just say I'm wrong and just move on. Whatever she said, you're right. I did. You're right. I don't. You're right. Absolutely. I think that's I'm just kidding.
So,
But sometimes.
the word there is capitulate.
Yes. See, you know what I'm saying? It's like they married 28 years, man. But all joking aside, communication, seriously, true communication. I always, what I learned too is that for any situation, especially when you're married or roommates, whatever, pull yourselves out and you guys be the unbiased rep team. Look at what you're looking at and look at what you're talking about. Not from just, I'm saying it though, but if you were watching this on somewhere else and you saw these people, how would you react to it and things like that? I live that way. Like because when we get too involved with it emotionally from our perspective, we truly lose sight of any other perspective but our own because we get so caught up in it. And anger's like venom, like the movie. Like the more you get it, the stronger it makes you feel, and like it's a symbiote in a way to kind of validate whatever you're feeling though. So you have to pull that aside, get rid of that, and just be an unbiased rep team though, because now you have a problem with the situation, and now you have anger, two problems.
Yep.
So being the unbiased rep squad, now you take those two problems out, and you can watch this unbiasedly and find a more pragmatic solution to what you're going through.
Doctor, I interrupted you. You wanted to add
I've
something.
lost it. It's okay.
But I think you make a very good point. And the other thing I think it's important in terms of conflict resolution, anger, obviously, tone.
Yeah.
And that's if you're angry, your tone is aggressive, and nothing can destroy a communication faster than an aggressive tone.
My family actually has a safe word.
Oh, really?
Tone is the safe word.
Really?
When someone's starting to get that edge, and we know that things are about to ramp up, we use this little safe word of tone, and it's just like a check-in. We're like, oh, take a step back.
Oh, see, that would set me off.
Well, you joke, but I could hear my wife going, "What you mean tone?" Oh my gosh. This is a really serious. There's an epidemic of domestic violence in Houston. I mean, we do these stories over and over again. The storyline is always the same: jealousy, the need to control a partner, usually a man with his woman, I always wonder, why is that? What is going on emotionally for someone to be insecure and ultimately violent? What do you think is going on? Is it past trauma? What is it?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot. That's a very broad question, and it's hard to narrow it down. But touching on the jealousy piece, I think monogamous relationships have an air of possessiveness. That we literally say, "You are mine and I am yours," like we're an object that we own of each other, and that is not how relationships work. We choose to be in these relationships.
There you go.
We choose to show up and to commit to each other in whatever various ways we choose to commit. But when that possessiveness comes in, it makes it really challenging to address insecurities. And that's what jealousy is born out of, is insecurities. It's okay to talk about jealousy. Jealousy is just a random emotion that we experience that everyone experiences at different times, but it's the piece that we feel threatened in some way.
Yeah.
And oftentimes there's no actual threat. It's the feeling and perception of threat. And that's what we have a reaction on. The jealousy itself is benign. It's what we do with that jealousy that causes problems.
And so what we see is, we're talking about extreme cases. You know, ex-wife gets a new friend, boyfriend, and suddenly that jealousy expands to more than one person, and it becomes tragic. And I guess you feel threatened, you feel like a loss of control because you think you're supposed to control that person.
That's the possessiveness.
And you're losing control. So therefore, how do I get control back? I have to threaten with fear and intimidation. I saw you kind of thinking in your head, Will, as he was talking.
Yeah. Because what's so unfortunate to me is that it's been a part of human history, right? And what I always question is, how do we completely eliminate something that's always been there? And in my mind, a big part of it has to do with us just being honest and upfront about it and addressing it, and then coming up with ways to deal with it, at every level. I'll tell you one thing that helps a lot of people is understanding how to control their physical selves when they're under extreme pressure. I know one thing that has really helped me is martial arts.
Okay.
Right? And so you're in a situation where, it's in essence it's staged, but you're in a position where your life is at risk, right? And behaving erratically is not going to help.
Yes.
Right. So how do you lean back on your training, right? And it's something that can help you have complete control over, okay, the anxiety level is way up here, but how am I reacting kind of physically, right? And in my mind, that's an opportunity or a tool that can be rolled out and kind of used with people in order to help them kind of disconnect that immediate need for action versus how they actually react.
That's an excellent point. You should be a therapist.
I'm trying.
Comedian/therapist.
Good.
Chinadu, your thoughts about, because I know you watch our newscasts, when you see these stories, I always wonder what's the background of the person, and you touched on it, the insecurity, the need to possess. Maybe they're mirroring a behavior that they grew up seeing, and it's normal to them. I'm guessing.
I would definitely say so. Being in that newsroom too. So many stories, so many that we don't even air because there's just not enough time. But it is unfortunate. It does happen a lot, and it's hard because I do feel like, again, the jealousy and insecurity is a part of it too, and there's a vanity factor in it as well too. Because I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Houston is a beautiful city. You know what I mean? Like I've traveled a lot. It's a lot of ugly people out here, a lot of ugly people in this world, okay? Not in Houston, it's a lot of beautiful women out here, and I heard the ladies say there's a lot of good-looking guys out here. These things really get caught up, and I feel that with these things, it's important to truly get to a non-superficial level with these things to find real connection in it, because I feel that's a big factor in it. When I'm looking at the stories, I'm not saying it's the only factor in it. I'm just pointing out something that hasn't been discussed yet, though, because a lot of good points have been made. And I just say that's definitely been a factor. Like the culture we're in, the way people live in lifestyles in our city, it's just it's gasoline to already, fire situations. I feel we really should just be cooled down by better temperaments, better mindsets, and just and And they, like you said, that possessiveness, understanding that part is just, no, you don't own anybody.
Yeah.
And it's just, it sounds so crazy to say though, but that's a base level thing. I wish a lot more people understood, and if they did, there would be a lot less cases that would come across our newsroom.
Absolutely. 713-526-1111. I forgot to mention that. If you want to call, have a question for the panel, 713-526-1111. We'll be happy to take it and try and get you an answer with this esteemed group. You were shaking your head earlier to what Chinedu was saying. What did you want to say?
I agree with everything what he was saying too, and then also on top of that, it's the gasoline, and then you mix in the spirits and the substances, and then now it's a whole other ball of chaos.
Yeah.
And I've grown up in my life of having family members who are domestic violence survivors, and then also I've had to learn how to forgive domestic violence abusers. Ooh. And I think that has helped. I think that's a step that we could take towards breaking the cycle, because I believe a lot of times when men act out violently towards their partners, it's because of a lot of suppressed emotions and a lot of not knowing how to deal with what's going on inside, so they just act out in a barbaric way. And it's a mistake. At the end of the day, that person didn't mean to do that, and we need to treat it as such, versus sometimes when somebody does commit that act, we make them into a monster, and then now they feel that that's who they are going forward. And it's like, I've had to learn how to forgive people who've committed that crime or the domestic violence crime, and that's taken a lot. And I feel like telling people, hey, you made a mistake, I could tell you're sorry for it, and we're going to move on. It doesn't define who you are. Mm-hmm. That has helped kind of break the cycle, I feel, of people who I think might have resorted back to that.
Yeah. All right, let's flip the script here from very serious to a little lighter. I know you're not in a relationship, but you say you do.
Lynn, every time you say that, you're like, I know.
It really is like
I know. I got it, Lynn.
I'm trying to help you.
Are we putting his phone number up?
Put his IG hand on the screen.
If somebody tells me in my ear, they say, "What's his number?" I wonder what kind of comedy do you do as it pertains to relationships?
As it pertains to relationships, when I get on stage, I don't care who's in what relationship. I'll talk about my love life versus when you go to some audiences, and Chinedu, you see this, where a comedian will get up and be like, oh, who's this? Or are you in a relationship? Are you in a relationship? Yes. And then all of a sudden now everyone's all tight because you don't know the dating circumstances there. So what I would rather get up on stage and talk about is my life experiences and my failed relationships, and see how that conveys to the room. And a lot of times that does seem to resonate with the different audiences.
That's a good point.
So I hate to put any of my audience members who might be in a situationship on the spot in the room. They're already paying money to get away. So that's how I kind of convey that message.
That's part of the art of what you do, though.
I believe
right?
So, yes.
It's figuring out when to go not too far.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have a question from a viewer. Thank you. They're asking, how do you bring up a mental health topic without your partner taking it the wrong way? Doctor.
So addressing these issues is really challenging and always so nuanced. And I think when the most soft approach to address this is to talk about yourself, of saying, I'm noticing something or I'm feeling some sort of way, and I want to check in with you on where you're at with this. So using yourself as the reference point to touch base with that person.
That's an excellent point. Yeah. Will?
So in terms of general communication, I think if you have something that you specifically want to address, right, it may be something where you need to take a step back, have a more general conversation, right? But if this is a pressing issue, allow it to come up organically and naturally, and then let the person who you have this concern about, let them express themselves. This is not, if there's some level of concern around how they're going to respond, then you already know going in it's not going to be an easy conversation.
Yes.
So don't try to make it quick. Don't try to make it quick. Take a step back, let's generalize it, and then let's ease in there. It may not be the same day, it may not be, right? You may need to come back to it, but just take for granted or just be clear, hey, I know this is not going to be easy, so let me not try to rush through this.
Excellent point. Chinedu?
Well, my dad's method is a little bit unorthodox. He never cared about feelings at all. He'll just jump right into it. I think you're crazy. Let's discuss it. Something like that. But I've learned that's not probably the best method. Like Will's already echoed earlier, great points. Truly lead with love with it. It's not an easy conversation.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be quick. It's not going to be just one-sided. They just, oh, I agree with you saying. It may get messy. It may get complicated. But to make sure you lead with love, meet in a mutual place. Just truly lead with love. And the best way I would say truly like lead with love, but truly be honest in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because this may be your only one shot at this to discuss it. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying, it will be only one shot though, but this approach, it's best to, again, lead with love, but truly be honest in what you're saying, but also not to make them feel like they're a monster or that they're a new society or a burden or anything like that. Lead with love. Whole conversation.
Wow. Did you want to weigh in?
Writing down my thoughts usually helps me make sure that when I'm coming into this conversation with a person who is emotionally cornered or they're a little erratic, it would help me make sure that I'm not coming off as dismissive or angry with them at all too. So it's very important for me to understanding the timing of the situation, because I don't know about y'all, sometimes I have an ego where I feel like, I want to help this person, I'm gonna help them right now. And it's like, no, they're going through something, to give them a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself that it's about timing and making sure that person's at a point where they can receive the information or have that conversation about moving forward.
So, Doctor, you brought something up that my father told me a long time ago, and he got it from his therapist. Keep it in the I lane. I am concerned. I am not sure how you're feeling. And therefore, you're not attacking inadvertently. And so I think it takes practice. It really does.
It's a skill. It's a skill set.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of emotional labor consent.
What does that mean?
So emotional labor is having big conversations, and like you were talking about, and it's asking for consent to have that conversation, because we may not always be in the right headspace, or maybe I've had a crap day, or maybe the kids are going crazy, and I don't have the bandwidth to take on this conversation, which already is tanking the conversation. So it's making sure we're setting ourselves up for success, and remember, the whole point of communication is to be understood.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of communication. If anything is a barrier to being understood, we got to set ourselves up. We got to take a step back, put it on hold, and set ourselves up so that we are having the right space, so that we can have that conversation.
You guys have. I hope that viewer really hears this, because I thought you all made really valid points. We've got another question. Thank you. Someone is asking. They say power and control is part of all relationships. How do we discuss this with our teenagers in a healthy way? Ooh. Your kids are not teens yet.
No, it's coming though.
It's coming.
It's coming.
So I'll start with you, but power and control, like, how do you discuss that with your children when they're about to date? What are your thoughts?
So this takes me back to a quote that I read in a book by Stephen Covey about how you can't rush a farm, right? So I'll point out that maybe starting as a teenager, probably starting a little bit too late, right? But as soon as you can kind of get involved, it's not something as simple as just a conversation.
Yeah.
I think that demonstrating to them how the dynamics of a relationship should work. So children seeing a healthy relationship, seeing how two people who care about each other and have committed to each other interact and support each other is going to be huge. And then you can explain the specific dynamics that the children are seeing inside of that. It's too difficult of a conversation to just kind of sit down and have. I think that a big thing with this, again, is that it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be quick.
Yeah, excellent point. Chinadu?
Definitely
power and control with teenagers.
A very thorough conversation is going to be needed, because when it comes to those two, especially in those teenage years with the hormones and life changes and perspectives and things like that, it can go far left or far right, depending on how it's perceived and what's done in it though. But just to but then to truly just understand what they're about to navigate through, and then how I believe in honesty with that. Of course, within reason, to still protect levels of innocence and things like that though, but to understand what comes with power and control, the good and the bad. Yeah. Just so they'll be equipped and ready for what happens though, especially as they enter adolescence, dating and things like that. Power and control will fly into that. You don't want your child to become a victim or an abuser. Things like that, especially as they navigate their feelings, hormone changes and things like that, changes in puberty, strength, It's a wide gambit. You know, working with I used to work with a lot of teens and youth with the school district and my youth group. So obviously you've seen a lot of these things, and so you want to be very, very cautious about it though, but definitely get on top of it.
How old are your kids?
My kids are 7 and 1.
Geez. Okay. So
Yes.
you got time to manage it.
Yeah, I got some time, but I'm done now. At one point, I'm done now. I'm getting the vasectomy done next week. Just point that out there, guys. Get it done, guys. It's great. I got my. I can't wait.
Thank you, Chinny.
Sometimes like he's getting bumped further and further.
Your timing is impeccable. Doctor, do you want to weigh here about control?
Yeah, anytime we're talking about teenagers and teaching our kids lessons, it's always a twofold approach. One is the covert teaching, which is the modeling, which is what you were talking about. And the other is the overt teaching, where I'm going to teach you a lesson. And the lesson here is boundaries. Boundary work is about what I want for myself in my relationship. The moment we start talking with another person, we're no longer talking about, we're not setting boundaries with other people. That's a misnomer, and we talk about it differently. But the boundary is a personal boundary. It's what I want for myself. And when I communicate that, I'm either negotiating and setting an agreement with that partner, or I'm setting a rule. This is what I need, and you don't get to negotiate with that. So it's boundaries, agreements, and rules. That's how we negotiate this. And when our agreements and rules are not directly connected to a personal boundary, that's power and control. That's what we're talking about, right? So it's the flip side of power and control is really boundaries work.
Yeah. All of you make good points. Did you want to weigh in?
No, that's right. I was doctor. I don't have kids, so y'all go ahead and take it away from here. But one thing that was expressed to me early on before I started dating, my mom told me, you don't possess anybody, you just get to experience them. And that kind of
all right, mother.
changed the framework of how I look at it, because not to thank you to that person who asked that question, but I don't view it as power and control. It's just we're two people experiencing each other at this point in time, and that's how it is.
Yeah, perhaps what they're getting at in the question is how to navigate it if it comes up. Okay. And I think that there are two sides of the coin, and you two have hit on it. Modeling is one thing for either a girl or a boy, teen, modeling. And the other is a direct conversation. The conversation with the boy is probably going to be a little different than with the girl. I mean, and I think it's important to have what you just said is that you don't own, you get to experience. And so therefore, that means there are boundaries. And you don't just get to act any old kind of way. And you don't expect them to be how you want them to be. So that there are boundaries when it comes to jealousy, because that's part of possession. Control, that's jealousy. So I think all of that is crucial that we speak to, model to our kids and speak to our kids about, to help them navigate a very difficult teenage years.
That question was framed very interestingly.
Yeah.
Like Ike Turner called that one in. Somebody. that power and control.
Stop. Well, it's a fair question, and I thank that person for being brave enough to put it out there, and I hope we've answered the question. We've hit on a lot of topics. Let me look at my question list here. Is there a way? Oh, here's something. I know you're divorced, Will.
That's right.
When do you stay? When do you go?
So,
and this is whether you're married or boyfriend and girlfriend or partner, whatever.
Yeah. That is such an interesting question. I know statistically about 80% of the time women answer that question before the men get around to it. But in my experience, it's so deeply personal. I think it's something that you have to have a clear set of principles and values that you operate from. And then once it gets to the point where that's not working, the other thing is with something like that, I think it's important to have strong counselors in your life, to have people that you trust to help lead you in the right direction, right? I think that's so deeply personal. It's something that each individual has to bounce up against themselves. Because leaving, quite frankly, can take many different forms.
That's true.
Right? You can emotionally leave. You can physically leave, but not legally leave, right? You can, right? So I think it's so individualistic. Each person has to answer that for themselves.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to bring it up.
Oh, here we
You've
go,
talked
man.
about. I'm sorry.
I know where this is
You
going.
talked about relationships.
Yep.
What did you leave or did they leave?
Both. It's happened each in which way.
Okay. So why did you leave? I don't need. I mean, just in general.
Just in general, at the time, I felt I didn't have the creative freedom that I needed in my life to make myself happy.
Okay.
And in my past relationship that I walked away from, that was kind of it. I felt as if, the person I was with was trying to control me to be something that they envisioned. And it wasn't until I was in that relationship that I realized, man, what matters a lot to me and my overall well-being is that I have the ability to create when I want, chase my passion, chase my dream, and that meant more to me than what I was going through. And for a while, yeah, I did. I was emotionally checked out of the relationship, and then it wasn't until the bad started outweighing the good where I was like, it's time for me to step away. And it was the suppressed creative freedom that I had made me walk away.
Thank you for being honest. That I know that's difficult, but again, that's about understanding your own needs.
Yes.
And wants, and you're an individual first, and it's inside out. If you're not happy, then the relationship is in trouble. So, and if you think you're going to find somebody who's going to make you happy, that's not how it works.
Ooh.
It really isn't. Am I right? I mean,
You're
that's
spot
not,
on. Yeah, I mean, we're back to talking about boundaries.
Yeah.
Our needs are our boundaries. These are our personal boundaries, our needs, right? And so it's time to leave when our partner is not willing or able to meet our boundaries, to respect our boundaries and help us meet them.
Okay, so the hardest part, somebody not willing, that's easy. Somebody not able, defining that, I think is harder to walk because they're not able. So what does that mean? Does that mean they can't, they won't? I mean, I know as you say, well, it's a very personal, but that's hard. Yeah. Especially if you have children.
Well, that's the thing. There's so many other dynamics you have to factor in. And then when you make a lifelong commitment, I know going through college is only a few years. There's a couple semesters where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? You can just imagine making a lifelong commitment. There are gonna be time periods where you're just saying, hey, this isn't working out. But there are all those other, right? Is there a sick parent involved? Is there a young child involved?
Excellent point.
Right? So it's just so difficult to take a step back and kind of generically say with all of with everything that can go on and say, hey, this is, because anything that you're dealing with can be just for a time period. It could be permanent, right? There's so many factors.
Yeah. I did not call this question in. We didn't fake it. Somebody actually said, dating is hard. Why is Anthony still single? While being emotionally intelligent. Hey. They think you're being emotionally intelligent.
All right, Doris, get out the comments. That's my mom. To answer that question, I would say that it just hasn't worked out. It just hasn't. That's it. And I'm focusing on living my life. And if love finds me, then in a romantic relationship, then that's where it'll be. And
you don't have to do anything.
No, I mean, and if I guess if I was just talking to Chinadu, the reason I'm not in a relationship, I just moved to Houston.
Yeah.
And he talked about the gasoline. I don't want to be a gasoline spreader.
Listen, I'm telling you, man, it's crazy out here, man.
It's a lot, man.
We gonna get Anthony on Love Island season, the new season of Love Island with Anthony. We get him on there.
We have some people in the newsroom who are fans of that show. I don't call it Love Island. I call it Lust Island.
I was thinking about reviewing the show. That's how I feel too. Like,
I'll join that review.
This ain't no love. This is all lust.
Thank you.
Bodies, sweat. Okay. But
so real quick,
all right, something like that.
For anyone, because we're wrapping up, anyone watching this who's in a relationship or struggling to be in one, what's something that you want them to hear loud and clear? Somebody who's struggling in a relationship, quickly.
Someone who's struggling in a relationship, make sure that you're speaking your needs. Make sure you're speaking your needs. Don't be quiet. Speak up.
Yeah. Speak up. Yeah. And be kind when you speak up.
Yes, lead with love.
Will.
Yeah. Focus on you. I think in terms of what makes you happy, what makes you fulfilled, but then also so many times when I'm dealing with an issue with somebody else, I take a step back and I'm like, well, wait, is that me? And I realize, oh, I'm more of the issue here than I believe.
That's fair. to be aware. Chinedu, how long you been married, Chinedu?
I've been married for 13 years.
Okay.
13 years. And I would definitely say, just celebrate too, man. Listen, love me, baby, too. I ain't got no prenup, too, so love you, baby. Ain't got no prenup. You more popping out here, man. I love you, baby. I ain't got no prenup. Just like everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kidding. But to the person, I would say two things. You matter and you are not wrong. And what I mean by that is you matter. How you feel, your thoughts, your emotions, relationships. It feels like you can put yourself last to put other people first, depending on what the situation is. And also that you're not wrong. Sometimes you are not wrong if you want to leave. If you want to move on like that, you're not wrong. The person you may be with may be a stronger debater than you, or make you feel intimidated though, but you're not wrong in how you feel. You matter and you're not wrong. Go deep into it. If you want to say that's good though, but if it's time for you to go, be fearless in it. You're not crazy and you're not wrong.
Wow.
You can move on.
Anthony?
It's okay.
Yeah, to echo that, I agree with what Chinedu just said. You're going to experience jealousy. You're going to experience anger. It doesn't make you a bad person. We all go through those emotions. So identify those emotions. Don't act upon them, but identify them, recognize that they're there, and do what you need to do to make sure that you're in a centered place with yourself. And you don't possess anybody. You only experience that person.
You only experience. I love that. I'm going to quote that to my daughter. It's so very true. I think at the end of the day, and I want to say this very loud and clear, relationships are not easy.
No.
I don't care about fairy tale books and movies. None of that is real. When you're with somebody, it is tricky and difficult because you're two different individuals learning how to navigate life together, and that is hard. And there's an art to doing it, and there's patience and love and tools that we've kind of talked about to help, but it's not easy.
I agree. You're going to see a lot more Bobby and Whitney's than Prince Charming and Cinderella's out here in this world, okay? I'm saying, I ain't saying to the whole extreme, though, but it's more or less like that. It's not easy. Relationships are not a fairy tale. Disney has done, and other companies have done a great job at making it look simple. Yes. So sweet, and a 2-hour package too. Yeah. 3 commercial breaks.
Happy
awesome.
ending.
It's great, but it's not like that. It's very easy. It's very hard.
Yeah.
I just want to do one more thing. I want to sit like this for it because you guys make it look so cool. I gotta sit like I'm wearing the suit.
Are we doing that?
I gotta get. You remember last? I gotta get that shot because Lynn is the man. Okay, and that's not. Yeah, that's knowledge right there, man.
That's effortless.
That's because my knee hurts. Thanks to all of you. I thank you all, by the way, for joining this conversation. We hope we have provided you with the tools to manage your mental well-being in relationships. We have lots of content for you, including more discussions like this one. Watch it all for free right here on KHOU 11+.